building may be evacuated, you will be required to vacate the building by the rear entrance and gather at the breezeway between the library and art gallery buildings. This is Council's designated emergency muster point. Under no circumstances is anyone permitted to re-enter the buildings until the all clear has been given and the area deemed safe by authorised personnel. In the event of an evacuation, a member of council staff will assist any member of the public with a disability to vacate the building. All councillors and staff are required to speak into their microphones. You may need to move your microphone close to you to ensure that you are heard and recorded on the live streaming. Your microphone will glow red when it is picking you up. Apologies for absence.
Mr Mayor, we have Councillor Hamling and Councillor Duffy.
Someone move those, please.
Move those, Mr Mayor.
Move Councillor Prevotaro, second Councillor Munro. All in favour? Against, thank you. There are conferences and Director Ian Greenham's at the National Roads Conference also. This council meeting has been live streamed and recorded. By speaking at the council meeting, you agree to be live streamed and recorded. Please ensure that if and when you speak at this council meeting that you ensure you're respectful to others and use appropriate language at all times. Orange City Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this council meeting. A recording will be made for administrative purposes. I would like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people who are the traditional custodians of the land. I would also like to pay respect to the elders both past and present of the Wiradjuri Nation and extend that respect to other Aboriginal Australians who may be present. Does any councillor wish to declare any conflicts of interest in any matter for consideration at the council meeting? There's a no. 8 items, 6.4. Someone moved that we... Thanks, Councillor Munro. Seconder, Councillor Whitten. All in favour? I thank you very much. There are no mayoral minutes. First of all, to the good news folder.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll read the good news folder for today. We have 3 items here. We have an email from Philip Schwebel thanking Council for fast service in fixing potholes in parts of Clifton Grove. Yep. We have an email from Amanda Dedeker thanking Council and everyone involved in making the footpath a reality along the western side of Brendan Sturgeon Oval. Makes it a lot easier, a big difference in getting kids around with the stroller. And we're just discussing GoGet have opened a service this week with 2 cars out at the airport.
Excellent. And the lights, most of the lights are finished in Summer Street, the LED lighting, which will save a lot of money, obviously. And the lights, mood lights are on the Emmaville Cottage, and they look good if you're going along the Northern Distributor at night time. Please have a look at that. If I may, in the last week or so, we've lost 2 prominent citizens of Orange. First of all, John Hamilton's daughter, you probably know, is just currently the Australian Wallaroos captain, player of the match in both tests. And his wife, Viv, is a nurse, but they've been involved in lots of community activities in Orange over the years. But secondly, Tony Smith. Tony Smith has been on a large number of council advisory committees, including the museum, the regional museum funding group that raised funds. He's been on Parks, Street Trees and Waterways, been on environmental sustainability at one stage.
Conservatorium too, Mr Mayor.
Conservatorium and the museum. So a lot of committees, and his funeral was held today also. So I'd like us just all to have a 1 minute silence, if you wouldn't mind, for those 2. Tony and John. 3.1 is confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting of Orange City.
Move the minutes.
Thanks, Councillor Witness. Seconded, Councillor Munro. All in favour? Aye. Unanimous. 4.1 is a note of motion, recycling.
Move the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Need to say a second to Councillor Turner.
So the motion is that Council review its material procurement policies and practices with a view to increasing procurement of products that use recycled materials. I think this is a pretty straightforward one. Hopefully, in terms of the explanation in the background, it arises out of the Local Government New South Wales annual conference that was held just recently, and also out of the Local Government New South Wales Save Our Recycling campaign. It's about helping to develop a circular economy for recycled materials, plastics, construction material, for example. And it's about, at the conference, Councillor Linda Scott, the President of Local Government New South Wales, called on councils to play a part in that by favouring products using recycled materials. So if we're going to have a circular economy, if we're going to keep the waste stream turning round and reusing materials over and over again and getting the maximum benefit out of them, we need to create markets for the products that are created by those recycled products. So one council, Orange Council, making some efforts to favour products using recycled materials may not have a lot of effect, but if every council in the state were to do so, then that can start to create a bit of momentum, create a bit of energy, create a bit of a marketplace for these products. So I think it's, as I said, I think it's fairly straightforward. There's 3 times more jobs through recycling than there is in landfill management. It's also a growing industry. There's a CSIRO report out about the global market for recycled materials increasing from $34.8 billion US to $66.9 billion between now and 2025. And there's already many examples in Australia of manufacturers who are turning plastic milk bottles into plastic pallets. There's Replast Recycling that builds outdoor furniture, bollards, decking, dog, agility tracks, fencing and fitness trails. And there's also recycled material recovered from sort of concrete, brick and asphalt that is being reused in road base. So it's already happening, and this is a simple thing that we can do as a council maybe to just help that market continue to grow. I note the staff comment is that a report will be brought back to council. Very happy with, and I commend the motion to my fellow councillors. Thank you.
Councillor Turner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, supporting that, we're all aware at the moment of the crisis the recycling industry is going in, as far as China not taking particular items at the moment, and we're told that a lot of recycling materials are being stored in warehouses because we don't quite know what to do with them. Some a considerable amount, we're told also, rightly or wrongly, that they're now going into landfill. So that's pressured the federal government and the state government to come up with more programs where we can efficiently recycle. And I've been on walking trails where the walking trails going over wetlands have all been from recycled material. We hear about glass being used in road making facilities. So this is going to increase. So any support that we can give, and as the notes say, it's practices where possible. We won't dive in at any cost. But we'll certainly be involved, and I'm sure that we will see more and more products being recycled efficiently and cost effectively in the future.
Yeah, thanks. So look, I'll support the motion. I think a couple of things that we actually are doing at the moment should be highlighted because we tend to overlook them. The ELFL, the Environmental Learning Facility out the showground, is made of all recycled materials. walkways, which you think are wood and not wood. That's made of plastic, and that's recycled plastics, right through to solar on top of the roof. A lot of our things around out at Lake Canobolas now and Gosling Creek, a number of the bird walks and walkways, they're all made of recycled plastics. And certainly I think there's a lot more. I just wonder sometimes where they're going with this. I was in Broken Hill in 1990-91, and they did a kilometre stretch of road just out of Broken Hill looking at all this new technology, and it was a mixture of rubber all cut up with glass and they put it down, and I haven't heard anything since then. I don't know. I hope they are used, because I think that'd be an absolutely marvellous one. But the one thing I think that we should also do is keep pressuring the government to use that $80 million that it collects off councils in the levies that we have to pay to look at technology so we can get a lot of this recycled material out there and being used in communities. I keep hearing at various times when people ask, we're doing this with it and we're doing that with it, but I haven't seen any reports on anything positive that's come out the other end. There probably is, but I think the report that comes back may highlight some of the things that are actually being done. And I think the other thing I would like to know as part of that too, what is happening with a lot of those recycled plastics and that at the moment? I mean, people need to know, is it going back into landfill? Or is it being stored? It's not only China's not taking it now, it's Indonesia and Korea is not taking it also. So I support the motion. Councillor Valletto.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I certainly support the motion, and I acknowledge the councillor for putting the motion forward, and good to see when councillors do go to these type of conferences, because quite often we get asked a lot of questions as what do you do there, and to bring a motion back like this, it shows that we are diligent when we go there. This type of conferences are worthwhile. I guess the only question I have with it is when you talk about, through you, Mr Mayor, to the councillor, when you talk about recycling, you're talking about plastic pallets and things like that. Assuming that we'd require some sort of industry to make these plastic pallets, are we suggesting that we're going to build some sort of factory, and if so, how would that be powered?
I think we might wait for the report. That's a tough one. Councillor Whitten.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, look,
By solar, of course.
it amazes me, like if you look at some other countries throughout the world who have actually got on top of some of these issues, these small countries in the world, like Netherlands and places like that, where they're actually turning landfill into money-making machines for energy purposes, gas and all sorts of stuff. So landfill, while we may think is a word, some countries are turning it into a way to generate energy from the landfill itself. I know we can't recyclables, but certainly recyclables can be turned into other forms of usability, like roads and stuff. And I've seen those sorts of things on.
I think I might put the motion because it doesn't seem that anyone's against it.
Yeah.
I'll speak against.
All right, okay. You're speaking against it.
Speaking against, I may yet change my mind on which way I vote, but speaking against in terms of we need to make sure we have responsible spending in terms of our procurement policies. It needs to be balanced. There is a certain social and environmental positive impact, but we need to make sure we look after the bottom line for our residents and ratepayers. I do like the idea that we support the collaborative and cumulative impact that this can have with large and small scale recycling plants. We know our community's been asking for many years, what are we doing to encourage business to come to Orange with either small, medium factories, particularly on the old Electrolux site. But if we're looking at the big picture in the circular economy, making sure that anything we purchase has that triple bottom line approach. But even locally, we've seen the lids of PET bottles, the milk and soft drink bottles, collected by small groups of locals to make into micro beads for prosthetic limbs for children who've required those. So there's small actions being taken. And I think really to get to the heart of this, is it thinking big enough in terms of supporting larger scale opportunities for the circular economy for recycling in Australia? I would like to think that our locals will support this, but it needs to be balanced with a responsible financial approach.
It will be. All in favour? Please, against? Thank you. 5 general reports. First of all is 5.1, recommendation and resolutions from policy committees.
Recommendations.
Councillor Nugent, seconder. Councillor Prevatera. Councillor Taylor.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. I was absent from the last meeting in apology.
Yep.
Mayor, there were a couple of items which raised the of the infrastructure committee. There's 2 items there I'd like to just quickly address. One is the water restrictions, which would be, I would imagine, was contained in the current works report. As our water supply is concerned, Mr. Mayor, this chamber, I requested some time ago that council review its media policy as far as advertising for water restrictions. There are an enormous amount of people, particularly older people in this city, still do not know what level 5 entails. The reason for that is that the radio ads that we're running say refer to the council website. We put on 30, 60-second ads. I mean, surely the time would be better, money would be better spent on that advertising. Time would be better spent outlining what the restrictions are, and at the end of that commercial, say any more information, refer to council's website. That's common sense. But we're still running ads saying level 5 restrictions are in place now, refer to council's website. Well, I've got them information. I mean, and our media unit need to take on board that not all people have access to the internet, particularly older people. There still is a lot of confusion about what level 5 restrictions entail. We're talking about level 5A, we're talking about the implementation, and heaven forbid, of level 6. Let's hope we get rain before that. But the fact of the matter is, Mr. Mayor, this was raised several weeks ago. I think our money would be far better spent by that advertising, by outlining what level 5R is, what the restrictions actually entail, rather than just saying refer to the website. That's a lazy way out. As I say, not everyone accesses the internet. The other thing with the water restrictions, Mr. Mayor, is, again, we come back to common sense. I remember when level 4 came in and we were trying to force particularly older people again, people with disabilities and so forth, to carry buckets around. Inefficient way of watering. Common sense came into play. We changed that, and what we did, hoses to. What I'm saying now, Mr. Mayor, are we restricting people to just 1 hour watering a day, like on 1 day a week? What we should be doing is saying people can water for 1 hour on a Sunday, instead of saying you must water between 6 and 7. Because not everyone can access their hoses or be able to water at between 6 and 7 every Sunday. And if that's the only opportunity, it makes it difficult for them. As you know, Mr. Mayor, and I've heard you say it in this chamber many times, early in the morning's another ideal time too. So all that flexibility. And surely, I mean, we're having watering times from 6, I mean, it would have to put extra pressure and so forth on the infrastructure to provide that if every second household's watering its plants in 1 hour, 1 hour slot. So can we have a look at that, please? It's common sense. Common sense. And what I'll be doing, I suppose, in this council, I'm going to start introducing just common sense occasionally to say, why aren't we doing it this way? Because it just makes people are saying to me, why can't we have the times altered? I can't do it at that time every week. So just please, if we can give people a break on that side of things. The other thing, Mr. Mayor, is, and I'll refer to it as it's in the minutes, is.
What page?
Yeah, the page is on 26, and it relates to parking. Now, Mr. Mayor, I don't know. There's one down there at the bottom as far as we install a restricted parking for a spot for yourself, but. Who initiated that? I've been here 25 years. We haven't had to have a spot for the mayor. Now, my concern came about this was the fact that Romana over here is top all of social media and all the flack over that. And I know for a fact, I've spoken to him, I watched him live stream, and he didn't initiate it, responding to this recommendation. Yeah, there has to be a succinct answer to this. Where was it initiated? Who initiated? It didn't come out of thin air. Probably seen today's paper. Councillor Duffy is embarking, and I'm supporting him. Try and implement what is a resolution of this council for parking officers to start showing some discretion and hopefully some common sense. Yet that word again, common sense, as far as issuing fines. Duffy has undertaken a social media campaign on that, and he's getting a lot of responses from the general public where they believe, and it's their belief, I'm not saying right, wrong or otherwise.
I'll have to get an
extension.
extension. Extension of Councillor Whitten, seconded.
What I'm saying, I'll wrap up quickly. Look, I'm concerned that Councillor Romano copped the flack over that because he did not initiate it. But secondly, and I'm not saying you initiated it, Mr Mayor, but it had to come from somewhere. It didn't come out of thin air. So can we have just an honest, straightforward answer where it actually came from?
Well, first of all, can I say, categorically, it did not come from me, and I don't want a parking spot, and I've said that for the last 2 years. So I want that recorded in the press. People in the gallery, I did not ask for a parking spot. I do not want a parking spot.
I've seen that on the live stream.
Councillor Romano.
Oh, yeah, very interesting. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. I did cop a lot of criticism over that. I would also like to know where it was initiated. I was simply responding to the fact staff have allocated 24 spots, perhaps, staff vehicles only, and that's what I was alluding to, that perhaps we should consider some spots for councillors that are coming in to go on committees, make decisions, and there's times that we can't predict how long we're going to be in here. We just can't walk out of a meeting, and that's what I was trying to say. I wasn't saying that I'm an elitist, nor was I saying I'm special above the community or anybody else. I was just saying that if the staff have got 24 spots out there, why aren't some of those spots able to be used by some councillors?
I'll ask.
That's all I was saying. Nothing, and I think the media took it on board.
It's not. I think this is responding to the question. So I'll ask Jason to answer that question, and I've taken both on board here. Councillor Taylor wants to know who instigated parking, and wants the water restrictions looked at.
Yep.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the acting director of planning and myself were out in the car park. We were complaining ourselves that we find it difficult to find a car park. Historically, there was always a car park there for the mayor. It was next to or where the bike rack was, or is now, sorry, I should say. So collectively, we suggested that we actually get the mayor a car park. Simple as that. So we put a report to the traffic committee recommending a car park be placed down near the electric vehicle charging station, and at the traffic committee it was further recommended that it be placed up against near the bicycle rack.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So it was staff that actually initiated. Now, can I make, again, I'll use that word, common sense. We've got a block over the road there that we don't use, CF Williams. Why can't we initiate that we seal that and have that for dedicated staff parking, that staff can walk across the road?
All right.
And
Look,
that'll free
I
up
want to
the
roll
general
this up
public.
now because it's not emotional. I'll get the CEO just to explain what is actually happening with across the road.
So I hope, Councillor Taylor, Mr Chair, you've got your honest answer to that question, first question. We are coming back after Councillor Romano's request, a suggested way to do to help
Councillor
you.
Parkin.
I'm not saying that. Part of what we're doing out the back there, indeed, is to look at a reseal of the Williams Shed site and a retiming of this back car park. So people who want to park all day in this precinct, the wider precinct, will also have recourse to that.
Mayor, why can't we allocate the CF Williams the council staff parking and then free up the car park out here for the public?
That's what has
Mr
been looked
Chair,
at.
that's what's coming back to
That's
you.
what's been looked at as a hold it.
options.
Can I just answer that, Councillor Taylor? We're going to put a line in the sand on this now. That is being looked at as we speak, and what will come back to council, because it's up to you as councillors to support that or not support it, will be a report coming back to seal that, and whether that's made a council car park over there for staff 2 hour, 4 hours, 6 hours. It'll be your choice.
Respect, Mr Mayor, I'm delighted to hear that, but with respect, I would challenge any other councillor in this room if they knew that prior to me asking this question.
The report hasn't come back yet. Well, the report hasn't come, Councillor Taylor. I can't see your point. The report hasn't come yet. Oh, now. Councillor Miletto, is this on our next item or is it on something within these reports?
I just want clarification on something which the councillor asked, if that's okay.
I'll let you, and that'll be it then, because this was 2 matters that Councillor Taylor brought up. This is not having a debate because there is no motion.
That might be important if there are people watching
I
this.
will allow you. I just said that.
Thank you. Just clarification from the staff with regards to the water and these restrictions are on. My understanding is that there was some notification sent out with the rates notices. Was there?
Mr Chair, Redmond, we could answer some of this.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. Following the meeting where it was raised last time,
I know that not everyone's a ratepayer in Orange, but I mean, trying to find that balance of what we can put on TV and what's in the rates notices. I think.
Correction, Mr Mayor, I was referring to radio advertising. I didn't.
All right, look, Councillor Taylor, look, no more interjection. I'm just saying we're going to look into the water restrictions. Councillor Taylor quite clearly said radio. I've written down here. I'll write that down. He's only referring to radio.
Thank you.
He's not interested in rates notices or what was in the paper. He's talking about radio.
Property, Mr Mayor.
Hmm?
Into property. How do you read the rates notice?
No.
Common sense.
Sometimes common sense isn't that common all the time, so some people. Second point I'd like to make was with regard to parking, which has been raised. And in all fairness to the parking patrol officer and the council staff, at the last meeting I asked for some feedback with regards to whether there was enforcement being undertaken. Councillors would be aware that this afternoon there was a response provided by Mr Hodges. And I think it's encouraging to know that council staff do use their discretion. On this occasion, council staff were required to attend 35 incidents where it was raised that there was people parking on footpaths or in the immediate vicinity, which may have caused obstruction. Out of those 35 incidents, there were only 6 parking infringement notices issued, which in my calculation is about 14%. So I congratulate the staff who use their discretion and common sense under those circumstances to issue warnings.
Right, thanks, Councillor. Look, I'm going to put the motion now for those, unless you've got another
increased
point coming up, Councillor.
350,000 to 1.1 million in the last year. Yeah.
Councillor Taylor, I'll just give you one warning. If you're going to interject all the time, I'm going to have to do something about it because it's just disturbing the whole meeting. And we're making a point. I think you would be rather annoyed if you were trying to get on with this meeting and someone else was doing it. So I think we should all show due respect and not making points or trying to make points on each other or win points. I'm going to put the motion. All in favour? Against? Thank you. 5.2 is the statement of investments for October 2019. Sorry, that was Councillor Monroe. Seconded Councillor Turner. Any questions? Yeah, we're talking about millions of dollars in here in investments and so forth, and we've got no questions.
Report, Mr Mayor.
Oh, okay. All in favour? Hands, please. All up, thanks. 5.3 is councillor attendance, training and compliance.
Second.
Move Councillor Gray, second Councillor Nugent.
I'd like to acknowledge that it's a very clear report and I believe it provides good accountability to our ratepayers, residents and those who perhaps aspire to stand for elections that are on the horizon. I think it's also good for accountability of the investment. Our council fees are significant. They're certainly for the bottom line of the budget, but also a good indicator of the role that our councillors are fulfilling in the breadth of activities across our community. I think it also shows a significant workload of being a councillor, the investment of time and energy I might even suggest it could be an indicator of whether designated parking might be appropriate, depending on the amount of time spent attending various meetings and activities. I do ask whether it also would be timely, or at what point we might review community committees in terms of their effectiveness and the time required. We would note that at the beginning of this term, a large number of councillors and members of the community put their hands up for community committees. Some of the ones that I'm on, I know, have dwindled in attendance over time. And I wonder, at what point do we review them, and what would be that process? If that initial enthusiasm has waned, at what point do we look at their effectiveness, or are they indeed an opportunity that is best redirected of staff resources as well as councillor time and effort?
Can I suggest with that, I agree with you totally, motion forward for the next meeting that we look at a review of council committees, whether we need that many or we don't need that many or whatever. Yeah.
So there's no schedule at which they're generally reviewed?
Well, they usually are, sorry.
They're normally reviewed with each new council when they come through. So this would be an opportunity, if we brought a motion forward, to be able to review them prior to the next.
Okay, so they're usually reviewed in terms of what exists, but not necessarily their effectiveness over the recent period or whether their recommendations have been adopted by council. There's no more strategic look at how impactful they actually are?
Well, I might be able to answer that. In my recollection of 30 years, yes, it has, because some of the committees have changed quite dramatically, and their naming and what their purpose is. Yes, so there has been strategic reviews of the committees at various times. In fact, the reviews at one time recommended 2 or 3 be disbanded, but there was a fair feedback from the community who didn't want them disbanded, and they were reinstated, but with a bigger portfolio, if you like. And I think environment sustainability is a good example.
Thank you for the answer, and I'll make sure I get my motion in by the deadline.
Good on you. Councillor Whitten and then Councillor Munro, sorry.
Mr Mayor. Look, yeah, this is a great report to the community. It lets them know what's going on. But certainly in some years we have things come up in our lives as councillors where we can't make. You had some tragic stuff happening to you, Mr Mayor, and this year...
Yeah, I lost a father and I lost an auntie, and I was very sick in hospital.
And this year I've had a terrible year, so... but still, it needs to be reported to the community and let them know. And I remember in 2004 when I came on...
Councillor Whitten, can I just say, I don't agree with that. I don't think it needs to be reporting in the media that my father died and my auntie died and I was sick.
Not those things, Mr Mayor. I agree. I'm talking about the attendance report. Like any board, there are attendance reports. Don't always read into it. Got to go behind the scenes to see why certain councillors may not be turning up or certain committee members might not be turning up. There's always more to the story than just numbers on a piece of paper, even though numbers don't lie. When I first came on in 2004, there were 300 committees, I think. Am I right? I know there was a lot, and they churned them right back down to half. And every council after that is always, as soon as they start new councils, they talk about the committees. But I applaud Councillor McRae wanting to review it, because it does take up time of staff and council funds.
Thank you. Councillor Munro.
Mr Mayor, councillors, look, I agree with the concept of the thing. It's fine to collate and try and measure councillor's workload or what he or she may or may not get up to as a councillor during the term. But, you know, hard to collate or put a number on what we do as a collective and individually. In the community, outside where people really want to see us and or talk to us at the football field or whatever, at the pub or whatever, what's happening with this, what's happening with that. Because they're the things that we do, I'm sure all of us do, that can't be collated, can't be measured. And that's the true representation of being a councillor in my mind. You can do committees, you can come here and have 100% strike rate, but it's really what I feel as a councillor is that's all good, that's all what you do, but for me, what you do down the road and you hold your head high because you're a councillor, how people respond to you because you've got the position and they can actually ask you a question and get a sensible answer. That's the main thing. You can't collate that. You can't put a number on that. So, agree with it, but it's only half of it.
Okay, I'll put the motion. Councillor Nugent.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'd just like to. Sorry? No, I'm not. I'm speaking for it. I'm speaking for it, Mr. Mayor. But I would like to just comment on community committees. There's been some different sort of views expressed here. I've been involved in community committees since 2003, I think it was. I think they're a really important part of what we as a council does. Pages 48 and 50 indicate that there's 26 committees now, which still sounds like a lot, but I guess, 26 committees, when you think about the breadth of what council does, is not a lot. And there's been 193 total meetings in this term of council. And yes, as Councillor McRae has indicated, these community committees are an imperfect beast. They do lead to frustrations. I'm sure the staff get frustrated with them. I know some councillors get frustrated with them, and some of the community members get frustrated with them. But to me, still a very important part of what we do in terms of our community consultation. I've heard some councillors refer to them as optional. Maybe they're optional as to which ones we're on, but they are something that this council, previous councils have agreed to do. And I'd like to think that people considering running next year will factor into their assessment as to whether they run, that this is an important part of what a councillor is, what it means to be a councillor. So to me, it's about sharing the load around, and it's about doing the courtesy to those members of the community who give up their time to participate. The courtesy of attending as many meetings as you can, and if you can't, apologising or sending apologies. And if you can't do either of those, perhaps consider resigning from the committee. One of the pieces of feedback that I get from committees I'm on is the frustration members feel when other community members and councillors repeatedly don't turn up to meetings, and that frustration is heightened when apologies are rarely or never sent. So yes, these community meetings are an important part of what we do. We've done them for many years and probably will continue to do so under the next council and the next. And I think current councillors and future councillors should definitely factor their involvement in community committees into their workload if they are serious about running to be an elected representative.
May I make one point, Mr. Mayor? I know it's out of order, but I'd like to make it. I think the beauty of local government is the fact that anybody in the community can put their front. We really shouldn't be restricting it by saying, unless you can meet all this criteria, don't run for council. I think that's wrong, because certain people have day jobs and they can't come to committee meetings. They certainly know that if they run for council, they can make the nighttime commitment that they have to come to chamber and other functions. But I think it's wrong to exclude the community members who can't meet all this criteria, because I think that takes away the effectiveness of a local council. That's my opinion.
For the motion. All in favour? Hands up. Thank you. 5.4 is the adoption of the flood study and DCP amendment. Councillor Munro, second Councillor Turner. All in favour? Hands, please. Thank you. 5.5 is the Orange LEP 2011 Amendment 24 post-exhibition report. Move Councillor Whitten, second Councillor Munro. All in favour? 5.6 will be pulled out of tonight's meeting because there's a couple of typos in there that need referring to. It's being withdrawn and it'll come back. 5.7, Strategic Policy Review, Donations and Grants.
Recommendation.
New to second Councillor Turner. All in favour? Hands, please. 5.8 is Strategic Policy Review, STO77, Water Carting. Move Councillor Nugent, second Councillor Munro. All in favour? Yep. Portman.
Ask a question, please. It's relevant to water. Maybe council staff might be able to fill me in. I understand a bit of with our water restrictions and the rest of it. People in the community this week that have rung me regarding people using bore water on their lawns and being very, I suppose, water wise, such as other institutions like Kinross, whatever school, and they got bore water, and there's other our golf courses and all that sort of thing.
We use a bore on Wade Park too.
Yeah, we do all that. So, is there a way that we can council restrict water use to timely in regards to a bore, or is there a way that we can implement a policing system to have a chat to the people that are using bores to be more effective and more water conscious of their
I have to
neighbour?
declare an interest now, Mr Mayor. I have a bore.
Yeah.
I've got a bore too, but that's
why.
I'm just asking the question because there is a lot of maybe angst. Might even want to call it jealousy that someone's using water and they can't.
I think the second part's the relevant part.
But I just think you need to be also so water wise with that bore water. It's coming out of the ground, out of the aquifer, which could be running somewhere else. They're the points that people have put to me. So could I get some?
I'm just going to get the CEO to
Please,
answer that.
to just
I
see
will.
what we can do.
I'll just say one thing. I've got a bore. My bore's licensed, and most people have got a bore, and I'm not on town water. I don't get the luxury of potable water, and I collect rainwater. I mix that bore with my rainwater, and that supplies my house. And I can tell you that you've got no control whatsoever over my bore because it comes under Water New South Wales, not councils. But saying that, I'm saying yes, I agree with you. People should be looking at using them responsibly.
Especially in town where...
And watering at the right time and so forth. And you do know that there's a rule that they've got to have signs up that says that it is a bore. I think it is unfortunate a couple of people obviously don't have a bore, have had a sign up saying they have got a bore, but I'll get the CEO to answer those other ones.
Mr Chair, I think you just did. My technical understanding is that if you've got a bore, council can't control what you do with it. The rangers have been going around, and there was a good example a couple of days ago of a commercial premises with a beautiful lawn in Orange. And we sent the rangers around, and indeed it was a bore, but it was a bore going off at 10 in the morning on a sunny, hot day. And what the rangers are doing are confirming it's a bore, and then council's knocking up a sign letting the public know that it's bore. What the rangers are also doing is saying, look, from a perception point of view, can you take a long look at yourself and see if that's the perception you want out there of your commercial premises?
And I'll take on board what you said too. I'm just doing another article, a series of articles I've been doing on water wide use. You give me a good idea for this week. I'll do it on bores. Use of bore waters, yeah. Yeah, agree. Okay, just before we go into the closed meeting, I'm sure you would all know, I was quite enlightened because the ABC mentioned it once in 24 hours and it wasn't mentioned on one media station and I didn't read it in one tabloid. It's the International Day of Man. So congratulations for the man.
So the International Day of Toilets.
It is.
It is?
Yes.
We have any right under the...
Move to close.
We're moving to close. Someone move that we move into close. Councillor Munro, secondly Councillor Romano. All in favour? Thank you. The Chief Executive Officer will advise the Council if any written submissions have been received relating to any item advertised for consideration by a closed meeting of Orange City Council. Extend an invitation to any member of the public present at the meeting to make a representation to council as to whether the meeting should be closed for a particular item.